Good morning and welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. My name's Diane Alcorn and I am the Membership and Engagement Coordinator here. If this is your first time visiting with us, welcome. We're glad you took the time to join us here. If you'd like more information about our church and our worship community, please feel free and send me an email. In the meantime, again, welcome. We're so glad you took the time to join us.
Welcome to West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, a spiritual community whose hope is audacious and whose vision is for a just and more equitable world for all. My name is Reverend Anthony McCarr, Senior Minister of this wonderful community, and joining me this morning are Dave Blazer, Music Director, Beth Alardo, Special Guest Musician on Flute, Judy Montgomery, Worship Associate, Larry Wise, Michael Hockman, and Daniel Danchik, who are our wonderful tech folks making this live stream possible. A special welcome to Daniel this morning. It's his first time helping this morning. Together we are pleased to invite you into this space which is connecting people in Cleveland and beyond to our welcoming community. Often the world is not so welcoming. Often the values of the world are neither loving nor just. So, may this worship hour be one in which our souls are fed by a wisdom and a passion that life does not have to be that way, that there exists a larger love in every human heart, urging us on to what is better. Let this larger love stir in our midst today. May each of us feel touched by it in some way, perhaps even changed or even transformed. A special welcome to you if you are a newcomer to our community, gay or straight, cisgender or transgender, whatever your race and ethnicity, you are welcome. Our West Shore regulars would love to greet you and will do so if you indicate on the Facebook chat that you are new or relatively new. If you happen to have any questions and would love to chat with someone, West Shore's Member and Engagement Coordinator, Diane Alcorn, would love to reach out. Diane's email address is being added to your Facebook chat as we speak. Once again, welcome to this new day. You know, every week we light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. It is a beautiful reminder that no matter what may have happened in the previous week leading to this day, this community is a source of stability and meaning that all of us can rely on. Please say with me these words, originally inspired by Maya Angelou. This is our chalice. In many separate rooms, we light one flame, flame of passion, flame of compassion, flame of humor, flame of style. We do not accept merely surviving let our mission be to thrive. Together in spirit, we are one. And now let us testify to the unity of our spirit by saying together our unison affirmation words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio su ley. Este es nuestro magnífico convenio. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. And so may it be. And now let us turn to our time of greeting. We are going to turn to a more personal sharing of names and news that people have asked to be shared. Let's begin by highlighting some beloved folks who are age 80 and over, celebrating their birthday in this month of May. Anne Grail, Wes Maynard, who is turning 97, Mary Lou Pollock, Floyd Fike, Janet French, Leslie Hahn, Betsy Hutchison, Tom Williams, Bernie Anderson, Betty Jackson, Tom Bolin. Happy, happy birthday to these fine folks of West Shore. And now this news from Melinda McGuckin. She wants everyone to know that on May 8th, Baldwin Wallace University will be holding an in-person commencement for the MBA graduating class of 2020, of which Melinda is a part. She is excited about this and asks for the congregation's well wishes. And finally, a shout out to Ministry Associate Ann Osborne, who very generously purchased today's sermon topic on forgiveness at the annual service auction this past November. Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you. Let each of us now say the names of people whom we are holding in our personal thoughts and prayers this morning. People in our West Shore community, people beyond, wherever you happen to be. Say the names out loud into the space of your room, as if the act of just saying the name were a prayer, which it is. You may even type the name into our West Shore Facebook chat, if you like. I'll pause for a moment as we do this. This has been our greeting time when we are called out of our 24/7 regular world and called into the circle of enabling love where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle of enabling love where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it
Good morning. My name is Judy Montgomery, and I am honored to serve as one of your worship associates. I've been pretty fortunate in my life in many ways, so there haven't been too many times when I've needed to forgive people. This week, when I thought about my few experiences with forgiving others, the main one is the one I shared with you a couple of months ago. I had been with a woman for 17 years, and neither one of us was particularly happy, but we didn't end it until she ended it abruptly in a way that left me angry, disappointed, and hurt. Even in the midst of all those feelings, I knew God had done for me what I could not do for myself. I had needed to be out of that relationship for a long time. For a couple of years after that, I talked to her when we had business to conduct, but there was no friendliness on my part. What turned the corner for me was compassion. She really thought that by starting a new relationship, she'd finally be happy. Sadly for her, she had jumped from the frying pan into the fire. But she was just trying to get her needs met, and it didn't work out for her. So that relationship didn't last long. After several years in which we exchanged birthday phone calls, one day she called me and said she'd been invited to a wedding and had no idea what to wear. Would I go shopping with her? Well, I was shocked at first, but realized that appealed to my need to contribute. I was clear that I had no interest in resuming a romantic relationship, but I could help her out, and we did go shopping. We now talk several times a year, and it feels something like a friendship, and that's part of forgiveness. As I thought more about this idea of forgiveness, I realized, but I've had numerous opportunities to forgive myself. As I've also shared in past reflections, in most of my past relationships, my pattern is to not speak up enough about my wants and needs. I regret that now, but know that I was doing the best I could do at the time. So that has helped me to forgive myself and know that my job is to learn from those experiences and do better now. Those who know me well know that I don't often talk negatively about other people because it doesn't feel good to me. Sometimes it's the easiest way to connect with other people, but it doesn't meet my need for integrity. It seems like that's part of our culture, to talk negatively about other people or things to connect. Recently, I was talking to a friend on the phone and I mentioned something about a mutual friend that seemed inconsequential. However, the moment I got off the phone, I said to myself, why did you have the need to share that? Saying it was bad enough, but then the next human reaction was to judge myself and feel guilty. Instead, I thought about the need I'd had. My need was connection with the friend on the phone, but it isn't the way I prefer to connect. So instead of guilt-tripping myself, I've forgiven myself and am determined to not repeat that behavior. When I shared that little experience with a friend who regularly practices NVC, or nonviolent communication, she said, quote, I'm becoming more spiritual when I realize I'm not comfortable with the behavior. I celebrate the fact that it is uncomfortable, unquote. Yes, that resonates with me too. And then let it go, forgive myself, and know I will do better. In that 17-year relationship I mentioned earlier, I made a serious decision that impacts me financially every day, even now. When I was preparing to retire under STRS in 2010, I made the compassionate decision to take the financial option that would protect my partner the most if I died first. The legal wording of the plan of payment choice I made is joint and survivor annuity with reversion. By the way, this is not an STRS rule, but is covered by the Ohio Revised Code. That decision means I get a significantly less amount of money every month while I'm alive, and if I die before her, she will get my full monthly pay. It seemed at the time the most loving and responsible option to choose. However, because we were not married and couldn't be at that time, I cannot change that decision. Even though we have not been together for 11 years, if I die before her, she will be sitting pretty financially. It still annoys me every now and then, but I always remind myself I made that decision out of compassion, love, and loyalty. And those are good attributes that I'm proud to own. Reminding myself of my motives helps me to forgive myself and let it go again. And by the way, live a healthy life so that I outlive her. Compassionate communication, or NVC, isn't just about being compassionate and forgiving to others, but to myself as well.
Thank you, Judy. And now we turn to today's call to the offering, which begins with this video.
Oh, hi. I'm Dave Blazer, your music director here at West Shore. I was just doing a little practicing. If you recall in my September Shorelines article, I told you how this church year of 2020 to 2021 celebrates my 50th anniversary of being a church organist. As we all know, after 50 years, plus those years before being an organist, puts us in that category of, well, how should I say, getting older. Now, I feel very blessed that I have done my routine maintenance and I'm still pretty healthy physically, mentally, and musically. But as we all know, as we age, sometimes things have to be replaced or major events may befall us. One of my best friends has it different though, that no matter how well she took care of herself, she's got a problem of aging that has to be dealt with. This girlfriend of mine I'm talking about is our beautiful Holtkamp organ. As we know, Holtkamp pipe organs are very robust and reliable machines, along with being wonderful musical instruments. However, they do have long-term maintenance needs. Past the 50-year mark, we begin to experience problems which cause dead notes and ciphers on each of the chests. When these symptoms occur, it indicates that the leather in the chest have become brittle and begun to crack. Now let me demonstrate what a cipher is. This is just a demonstration pipe. So when I press a key down, it sends an electrical signal into the chest with all of these intricate little mechanisms to say, blow air into the pipe. Now a cipher happens, this is what happens when we have a cipher. It doesn't go away. The only thing we can do is just turn the organ off, call the company, and have them come and repair it. So at this point, all the primary valves, note valves, and stop actions in each chest need to have the leather replaced. There are 2,365 pipes in this organ, and each pipe has this sophisticated mechanism. Also the large wind chests that are fully leather. This is a lengthy process whereby the representatives of Holtkamp Organ Company remove the chests from the organ and return them to the Holtkamp shop. There they will re-leather the chests. This will take approximately 3 months to complete. The organ will not be able to be used during this time. Once the chests are restored, they will work trouble-free for the next 50 to 60 years. We have a wonderful group and an organ committee to help oversee fundraising for this project. This organ is a great asset not only to our church but to the greater Cleveland area. So let's get this old girl back in shape. So this is where we are now with the organ project. We've finished the first 2 phases of lead gift money from a number of extremely generous members of this congregation. And we truly send out our heartfelt thanks to them. We now have approximately $160,000 pledged to our $200,000 goal. We really want to have this work done over the summer so that when we return to our sanctuary this fall, we will have a completely restored grand pipe organ. What a great way to help kick off the 75th anniversary of this church. I'll also be planning some really cool use of the organ for my 50th anniversary. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be putting together a detailed fundraising approach where we go full force to the entire congregation. We want everyone to have an opportunity to be part of this restoration. And there are so many creative ways to use that number, 2,365, the number of pipes in our organ. Gifts large and small are greatly appreciated. Each time you look up at the organ, we want you to feel like you had a part in this. I'm giving this campaign the title HOPE, H-O-P-E, Holtkamp Organ Preservation Endeavor. Organist Haskell Thompson started this all in the 1960s, and ever since then, this organ has attracted fine organists to this congregation. This organ was the main reason I came here to serve, and although I've got quite a few more years in me, eventually new organists will come to West Shore, and this is the type of organ that will attract the finest.
Thank you, Dave. You know, I didn't grow up in a church. So when I started to hear calls from my church to give generously, my guard went up. One thing I knew with great resentment was how my mother had been hoodwinked by televangelists. And she would send them thousands upon thousands of dollars. Dollars which would be wasted on the televangelist's personal Learjet and the like. I thought it was disgusting. Was my church trying to pull a fast one on me like this? It took a while for me to realize that no, that was not what was happening. Because any money that we gave to our church was used to support the many programs of that church. And those programs were about making people's lives better, the lives of people I loved, together with the lives in our surrounding community. Never once did any of those dollars go into the minister's Learjet fund either, or any such nonsense. Now I'm on the other side of things, so to speak. I am the one calling for your generosity as your minister. I hasten to say that none of your gifts will ever go into paying for my non-existent Learjet. I am no televangelist, and no one's pockets are being lined here. What I see instead is a community that stands for something important. In Cleveland, there is so much ugliness. And one of the things that our church does is to remind people that life doesn't have to be that way. And one of the ways it does that is through music and the arts. We want to maintain our organ because it is one way by which we create beauty in a world that needs that. Your special one-time gift will help to continue to make that happen. If you want to, no one is going to be twisting your arm here or making you feel guilty. It really is up to you. It's a special giving opportunity. It is hope. And we want to offer that to you because we don't want anyone to feel like they missed out on making their contribution. I keep on thinking of what Judy Montgomery said a couple weeks back. She was talking about when West Shore was raising funds to pay for what was then a new sign. We've seen it for a while now, but when we were raising funds for it, Judy said that she did not get a chance to chip in. And so now, every time she passes that sign, she says to herself, I wish I had chipped in. I wanted to be a part of that. I want to have a piece of that through my gift. So I want you to please consider this special one-time giving opportunity today, your way of chipping in, your way of knowing that you had a part in maintaining that organ and keeping that organ going strong into our future. So stay tuned for further details. I also want everyone to remember something, that we are also calling on folks to make their annual pledge. Now, this sort of generosity is not a one-time matter. It is like paying the mortgage and making sure that you've got enough money in the bank for home improvement issues like that can strike all of a sudden. Your annual pledge represents your ongoing commitment to doing your part in sustaining everything about this community, sustaining our common spiritual home. Again, it's like paying the mortgage and having enough in savings for when challenges arise, like the roof suddenly starts leaking, and something's got to be done. For us to be in a good place in the upcoming church year, we need to shoot for the following goals. First of all, achieving a total pledge amount of $600,000 so that our conservative church budget balances. We're also inviting each household to consider increasing their pledge by at least 10 to 15%, if not more, if that is possible. Not everyone can do that, so your increase in your pledge helps other folks who want to do that but may not be in a position to. We're also hoping for 20 members or friends who have never pledged before or who have not pledged recently to consider pledging this year. And we are just inviting everyone to step up together. If we all step up together, we can just make this happen. This spiritual community is a lifeline for so many of us. Our need to social distance has only proven the point. So, let's keep this community strong with our love and our giving. Your pledge makes all the difference. We are now at $386,000, roughly speaking, with 133 pledge units reporting in. Thank you so very much. And you're taking a look at our stewardship goal chart. Let's keep it up. We still have around 250 or so potential pledges out there we've not heard from yet. Please consider making your pledge maybe after our service today or sometimes this week. Would you consider that? I ask for this especially in view of West Shore's financial manager, Suhana Kiris, whose stress level around not knowing what our pledge base will look like going into this new program year looks something like this. See that picture? That is one stress-filled finance manager. Let's make her job easier. Bring a smile to her face, the face of all our finance committee folks, our board, by stepping up and just getting that paperwork over with. Just get it done. Thank you so much for considering that this morning. And now, if you'd like to offer West Shore a special financial gift, please follow the text instructions on your screen. And right now, we want to partake of some of the blessings of music and the arts. Some of those blessings I was talking about earlier. We welcome Beth Ilardo on flute. This is the fifth movement of John Rutter's Suite Antique. It is titled Chanson. carried by the beautiful sounds we just heard of graceful flute and piano, let us now go deeper into this meditative moment. Take a deep in-breath. And then breathe out all the way. One more time, a deep in-breath. And then breathing out all the way, letting all the tension, if there's any there, out. Just relaxing into this moment. Close your eyes if you wish. I invite you to follow my voice. Break not the circle of enabling love. We sang those words a moment ago. Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle. Make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. On forgiveness. What is it? Why is it important? How do I forgive others? How do I forgive myself? Let's find out. Begin with a poem by Meredith Marin entitled Family Reunion. The divorced mother and her divorcing daughter, the about-to-be ex-son-in-law and the ex-husband's adopted son, the divorcing daughter's child, who is the step-nephew of the ex-husband's adopted son. Everyone cordial, the ex-husband's second wife friendly to the first wife, warm to the divorcing daughter's child's great-grandmother, who was herself long ago divorced. Everyone grown used to the idea of divorce. Almost everyone has separated from the landscape of a childhood. Collections of people in cities are divorced from clean air and stars. Toddlers in daycare are parted from working parents. School children from the assumption of unbloodied day-long safety. Old people die apart from all they've gathered over time and in strange beds. Adults grown estranged from a God evidently divorced from history. Most are cut off from their own histories, each of which waits like a child left at a daycare. What if you turn back for a moment and put your arms around yours? Yes, you might be late for work. No, your history doesn't smell sweet like a toddler's head. But look at those small round wrists, that short-legged comical walk. Caress your history. Who else will? Promise to come back later. Pay attention when it asks you simple questions. Where are we going? Is it scary? What happened? Can I have more now? Who is that? And that is the poem. And note how it begins with a litany of things broken. Broken marriages, the broken relationships between people and nature, toddlers' sense of safety broken, the innocence of school children broken by gun violence, old people's connection to their lives broken, the connection between humanity and God broken. This is the reality of our lives, suggests the poet. This is the human condition. So many varieties of divorce, so many varieties of separation, so many varieties of brokenness. And the poet is right. But perhaps your litany of hurts might be different from hers. Your litany, for example, might need to include aging. Someone once said, age is just a number until your back goes out from picking up a sock. For you, aging may very well be no longer just a number. Or maybe your litany must include illness and disease. At the very least, how something like COVID-19 can roar into our lives and disrupt it in a million ways if it does not kill us. Maybe what keeps you up at night are all the isms that separate people from one another, infect our politics, and cause terrible suffering. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, on and on. And then there is the impurity of the unearned privilege that comes from not belonging to some or all of those maligned social identities. Or maybe it's something that happened in this congregation a year ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago. This place that is supposed to be a source of strength and solidarity. Or maybe what keeps you up at night is death. That terrible separation from the ones we love or from our own lives ending. Meredith Marin's poem doesn't cover all the bases, but its point remains powerful and undiminished. Our lives are so very fragile, and there can be so many occasions for disappointment, and we can be hurt in so many ways. But then that poem pivots. What if you turn back for a moment and put your arms around your life? Yes, you might be late for work. No, your history doesn't smell sweet like a toddler's head, but look at those small, round wrists. That short-legged, comical walk. Caress your history. Who else will? What if, says the poem, and that's the pivot point. What if you turn back and you put your arms around your life despite all of the brokenness, despite the fact that your history doesn't smell sweet like a toddler's head? Life takes on a certain kind of quality when people can turn back and love their lives despite the separations and the divorces and the disappointments and the hurts. The poem's title suggests what that quality is. It's a family reunion. It's all the broken pieces of our world somehow coming back together again into a pattern that gives us a sense of meaning and belonging and peace and maybe even joy, if that doesn't happen to be too much of a stretch. Family reunion is one way of putting it, but we could also describe it as forgiveness. Forgiveness. A word the poem never uses once, but it is constantly and it is persistently there every time in every line between every line. To turn back and put our arms around our lives and our histories despite all the things broken which don't smell sweet. That is forgiveness, which by contrast implies the alternative, which is not to turn back and not to put your arms around your life and history. For there to be no family reunion whatsoever, things stay broken. You just stay away. You are repulsed by the smell. You reject the sourness. You and I just react harshly. We rebel against that brokenness. We recoil. We resist. We resent. That is the alternative to the family reunion and forgiveness: resentment. But when we choose resentment over forgiveness, life takes on an altogether different quality. There is no family reunion, I guarantee you. Let's talk about that for a moment before we go deeper into forgiveness. I want you to think about how resentment feels. It feels like holding a grudge. Inside the grudge feels like an abscessed tooth or a stubbed toe. And then around that grudge, there's a wall that has formed, a wall of tightness and anger, one that is touchy and on edge. You walk around like you are wearing plate mail armor. Walking around feels so very heavy. Maybe resentment feels different for you in your body, but we know how resentment feels. Part of the problem of resentment, though, is that it can operate stealthily in the background. We get so used to it, we forget that it is there. We forget how heavy it really is. You know, as a part of preparing for this sermon, I spent time listing people and situations I hold resentment towards. And oh my God, what a list. Each item on that list caused a stab of anger and pain and edginess. The things I am still holding on to. I wonder what your list might look like. What you're still holding on to. My point is just this, that occasions for shining a light on resentment can be rare, which is what makes things like sermons valuable to us, because they can be opportunities for that, to shine a light on things that need to be seen or seen again. One aspect of resentment we really need to shine a light on, and what I am needing to remind myself of, is how it freezes people and situations in time. That person who hurt you, it might have happened years ago in a world very different from now, but they are frozen in time and remain the same old, unchanged perpetrator. Very importantly, note how you yourself are not immune to the freezing effect either. Your resentment binds you to that perpetrator frozen in time, and it freezes you too. You never stop being the victim. You relive that pain over and over again, and every time it is as if it were the very first time. But to be frozen in time is such a betrayal of the gift of life. The very last part of Meredith Marin's poem wants to highlight this, wants to emphasize that if life is anything, it is about change. Her image for this is the toddler reaching for more life, on the way to more learning and growing with all its questions. But look, says the poem, at those small round wrists, that short-legged comical walk. Caress your history, who else will? Promise to come back later. Pay attention when it asks you simple questions. Where are we going? Is it scary? What happened? Can I have more now? Who is that? This is your life and your history. It is talking to you. All the questions, all the curiosity, the yearning for ever more life. But if we take the path of resentment, we turn away from this smelly, yet still vital aliveness, and we consign it to something very much like eternal hell and damnation. For what is eternal hell and damnation but the denial of the possibility that people and things can ever change? I want you to think about that. If hell is anything, that's what it is. So consider soberly how resentment is the reliving, the rethinking, the refeeling, the rehashing, the re-experiencing of some wrong done unto you by others or by your own self. It is an eternal recurrence. It is unfinished business. It is like the scab that you can't help but pick at. It is like the loose tooth or the broken crown you can't help probe with your tongue. Your violation of yourself, or someone's doing that to you or to someone you love, it is never ending. That is why philosopher Hannah Arendt says, without forgiveness, we are confined to one single deed from which we can never recover. We remain the victim of its consequences forever. Again, what is hell if not this? But we put ourselves there. We are the ones, no one else. Resentment, for sure, hurts us. It damages our physical health. It damages our relationships. It damages this church. It does. But we go there anyhow. We drink that poison thinking that it will kill the one who harmed us. But you know what? The only one who's getting hurt is us. Resentment is living in hell. And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us what the consequences are. It says that resentment destroys more alcoholics than anything else, more than any other emotion. Resentment gets alcoholics drinking and it keeps them drunk. And take that word alcoholic and substitute it with your emotional management strategy of your choice: workaholism, shopaholism, perfectionism, any and all of the other addiction isms. No chance for release, but only imprisonment in eternally recurring pain and victimhood. But why? Why do we put ourselves there? Why do we give ourselves over to resentment? And I think a main reason why is that we are divided selves. Ourselves are divided. And a powerful part in us is the part that holds the grudge and will not let go, no matter what the other parts of ourselves want or say. And this is something I really want us to hear this morning, that the part in us that will not let go of the grudge is not a monster. It is not a demon taking satisfaction in causing hurt. I want to invite you to imagine your inner grudge holder as this: as a good soldier who is just following orders. The order is, make sure that the overall person is safe. Safety for the overall person above all, which means that the good soldier part in you that will not drop that grudge is doing this because it simply feels too unsafe at this point to forgive. The good soldier within truly takes no pleasure in forcing the rest of the self to live in the hell of resentment, but like a good soldier, it will do whatever it takes to follow orders, despite the chiding of all the other parts in us that just want to let bygones be bygones. Consider a situation in which you yourself screwed up. You hold resentment against yourself. The good soldier within won't drop your self-resentment because maybe it is convinced that all that talk about self-forgiveness and blah, blah, blah is insincere and really just a matter of rationalizing our hurtful deed away, that it's just irresponsibility, which will open the door to us screwing up even further and making even more mistakes and therefore hurting ourselves even more. And that's not safe. So why not indulge in merciless self-bludgeoning to patrol oneself, to helicopter parent oneself? Why not? There's more virtue in that than moral apathy. We'll take moral masochism over moral apathy any day. And so, the good inner soldier follows orders, and it replays scenes of ourselves at our ugliest over and over and over again. To friends or to our therapist, we may complain about our critical inner voice and how mean it is, but we are simply unaware of the larger context of what is happening. We are simply unaware of the larger context dynamics, that the critical inner voice is in reality a good soldier trying to protect the overall personality. It is just following orders. We can't forgive ourselves yet, truly, because the good soldier part of ourselves is convinced that we are not yet fully out of the woods. There must be a sufficient reason for it to disobey orders and to change. But how might that inner good soldier change? What would truly convince it to see that its orders are no longer useful and that have truly been superseded? I suggest that there are 4 things to do, 4 steps. 1, it's to open up your life album with all its pictures and look again at the people and situations you resent. Also be sure to look at the resentment pictures which are of your own face, each of which represents something you once did that has ever since felt unforgivable, something you have never stopped regretting, something you have never stopped beating yourself up about. These are perhaps the most difficult pictures to look at of all. You know, some folks think that forgiveness means forgetting. No! Stop gaslighting yourself and acting like nothing happened. Something did happen. Forgiveness, if it is to be safe, must begin with remembering. It must begin with grief. The good inner soldier simply will not believe your sincerity unless it begins this way. But now move on to the next step, which is to remember fully, to look again at the something that happened with a new depth of curiosity and compassion. The problem with all our resentment pictures, those snapshots of what happened in our life albums, the problem is that they are greatly abbreviated. They are severely cropped, enough just to show the pain. Fine focus on the pain. There is some representation of reality there, but it is extremely limited. It is like you are in front of your bathroom mirror. You're getting dolled up for a night on the town with a date, and suddenly you notice the newly grown red pimple right on the end of your nose, and your sight contracts down to just that. That's all you can see. That's all you can see. And everything else about you, your lovely hair, your attractive outfit, your kick-ass shoes, it gets cropped out of the mental snapshot that you take of yourself. All you can see is someone who is hideous. That is how it is like with our resentment pictures. So this next step 2, is to open up your mind and your heart to the truth, the full truth. The inner good soldier won't be convinced of your sincerity unless you demonstrate that you yourself are a soldier. You are a warrior, in fact, in a disciplined pursuit of the truth. Compassion is what gives us the power to do that. Compassion is a power enabling us to lose our attachment to resentment, our attachment to the drama of the pain, and to open ourselves up to more of what is going on. Look again at your resentment snapshot of someone who hurt you. Through the gift and the grace of compassion, allow that person in the picture to tell their own story. Walk for a moment in their shoes. Empathize. And then you may see something unexpected. You will see them more as they are and not as your prejudices make them out to be. You will realize ways in which you have been ignorant about who they are, what they were facing, what was going on. You will see them not as evil, but as acting out of imperatives you might have had no clue about, or simply acting out of their own suffering and pain. What happened wasn't personal. When you hurt another, it's never with full foreknowledge of the consequences. It never is. And it's the same thing when another ends up hurting you. Breathe compassion into this world in which people can be so cruel in their anger and in their blame and in their self-righteousness and their perfectionism and their pettiness, and yet beneath it all is a hopelessness. Beneath it all is that sense of devastating worthlessness and shame. Breathe compassion into this. Realize that they are merely human like us, and we are merely human like them. And that is common ground that we can stand on. You, with the one who hurt you, standing upon the common ground of truth. And that is safe. That is safe. It is a safety that allows the seeds of forgiveness to start growing. Same thing. Same thing goes when we're talking about self-forgiveness. It is just so easy to look back at a mistake that we made and to say how stupid I was. What was I thinking? Such self-disparagement betrays of forgetfulness of how complex that moment was when we did what we did, as if you knew ahead of time fully what the consequences of your choices were going to be, as if you were some kind of Nostradamus or something, as if you knew ahead of time fully everything about the context you operated within, the problem you faced, the generations of people contributing to that problem, the limitations of the context in which you operated, as if you had all the knowledge and all the power to have avoided that mistake, as if friends. This is but the voice of pride talking. None of us are God. Look at yourself through the eyes of compassion. Face the whole truth. You are not God, and that is okay. You are a fine animal human, anyhow. Forgiveness demands a passionate loyalty to the larger truth. It must never skimp on the truth. Which also implies this. Yet another thing that helps to make forgiveness safe. Forgiveness does not mean that you are obligated to put yourself into the line of fire, obligated to put yourself back into that place. Some people in our lives never stop shooting at us. The power of compassion has helped us to see the suffering and the fear and the ignorance that are the ultimate motivation behind what they do. And so this takes the edge off of our judgmentalism towards them. Yet, our changed mindset about them will not magically change who they are. Listen, the forgiveness we feel towards them cannot supernaturally act at a distance and change a situation or change a person outside ourselves. Again, we are not God. Everyone needs to know that atheist and theist alike, we are not God. There must be humility to our forgiveness, or the inner good soldier will not believe what you're doing. They will not let the grudge go. All these are steps to forgiveness. So far, we've looked at two of them: to stop forgetting and look again at the old hurt. That's step one. Step two is to remember more fully and to use the power of compassion to help us seek out more of the truth. And now the home stretch, steps 3 and 4. Step 3 is to make amends as you can. Nothing you do or say may cause another person who feels harmed by you to forgive. But again, you can't control that. What you can control is doing what you can, at the very least, for the sake of your own personal integrity and need to heal your guilt. A good start is saying, "I'm sorry." A willingness to simply listen to another person's hurt non-defensively is also very good. Do what you can. Pay your dues, says Juliana Brines, PhD, just as you probably wouldn't forgive someone else until they made it up to you in some way. Forgiving yourself may be most beneficial when you feel like you have actually earned it. So, she asks, how do you know when you've adequately paid your dues? In some cases, it's obvious what needs to be done. For example, if you borrowed a friend's favorite sweater and you lost it, you probably would want to find a way to replace it at minimum. But in other cases, the criteria for making amends may be less clear. Receiving forgiveness from others can help facilitate self-forgiveness, but it's ultimately up to you to decide when you have done enough to right a wrong. And I want to add something to what Dr. Brine says here, and that is, none of us needs to be alone in deciding what we can do to make amends. So bring a friend or two in. Bring someone who loves you. Ask for their perspective. Get a reality check from them. This is so important. Remember, the inner good soldier is watching even if no one else is. Gain the soldier's trust. Prove your sincerity to the good soldier and make forgiveness safe. Finally, step 4. Resolve to learn all you can from what you did or what happened. Carpe diem, seize the day. If you fumbled the ball in the big game, pick it up again and just keep running. Don't give up on your life or on what you are trying to become. Remember, the goal of forgiveness is to do justice to all people concerned, the others affected, and yourself. You are an essential part of the equation, too. So what does your mistake say about who you are and what you are trying to become? What if, in fact, we saw our mistakes as wake-up calls, as symptoms of trying, however fumblingly, to become something better? Just the other day, I was delighted to discover a book entitled Being Wrong: Adventures in the Margins of Error by Kathryn Schulz. She says, if we relish in being right and regard it as our natural state, she says, you can imagine how we will feel about being wrong. For one thing, we tend to view being wrong as rare and bizarre, an inexplicable aberration in the normal order of things. For example, it leaves us feeling idiotic or ashamed, like the term paper being returned to us, covered in red ink. Being wrong makes us cringe and slouch down in our seat. It makes the heart sink. It makes the dander rise. At best, we regard it as a nuisance, at worst, a nightmare. But in either case, and quite unlike the gleeful little rush of being right, we experience our error as deflating and embarrassing. But then Kathryn Schulz says, of all the things we are wrong about, this idea of error might well top the list. It is our meta mistake. We are wrong about what it means to be wrong. Far from being a mark of indifference or intolerance, wrongness is a vital part of how we learn and change. Thanks to error, we can revise our understanding of ourselves and amend our ideas of the world. However disorienting, difficult, or humbling our mistakes might be, it is ultimately wrongness, not rightness, that can teach us who we really are. It is Meredith Merrill's poem again. Its emphasis on how everyone is on a journey of lifelong learning. We saw how her image for this is the toddler reaching for more life, on the way to more learning and growing with all of those questions. Where are we going? Is it scary? What happened? Can I have more now? Who is that? This vision of growth is echoed beautifully by the tradition of Judaism, from innocence to awareness, from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then, perhaps, to wisdom. There is no greater teacher than the consequences of our actions. Remember, beloveds, remember, we are the no-hell church. We are the no-hell church. So let us refrain from freezing in time anyone, including ourselves. Let us heal our divided selves by earning the trust of the inner good soldier. Let us look again at what hurts, but deeper than ever before, powered by compassion, so we come face to face with the full truth. Let us make amends as we can. If living well is the best revenge, then learning well is the best amends. The reality of our lives is undeniably this: so many varieties of divorce, so many varieties of separation, so many varieties of brokenness. But through forgiveness, all the broken pieces of our world somehow come back together again into a pattern that gives us a sense of meaning and purpose and belonging, and maybe even joy, if that's not too much of a stretch. It is no less than a family reunion. And I want that for you. I want it for me too. Amen. Amen. by the throne of God. On the margin of the river, washing up the silver spray, we will walk and worship ever all the happy golden day. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Ere we reach the shining river, lay we every burden down. Grace our spirits will deliver and provide a robe and a crown. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river, soon our pilgrimage will cease, soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Now bring your chalice close to extinguish it as I extinguish our chalice here. We extinguish our flames, we say, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Remember coffee hour starting here in a moment. We also have a Path to Membership class starting in a moment as well. So if you're interested in membership at West Shore, want to look more deeply into that, please join us. I'll also see you for the sermon chat at 12:30 on Zoom. And now our benediction, the words of Lewis B. Smedes. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you. And so may it be. Love, courage, cheer to you, West Shore. We'll see you next week.